Good evening, good day, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Welcome to Late Night Learning. My name is Dr. Anthony Palomba. Today we're going to be going through Blue Ocean Strategy, Media Management, and Technology. I hope that you are by a beach, otherwise you're really going to hate this first PowerPoint slide that is, in fact, the coast, a coast. But what we're looking at here is really the management that kind of goes into media management, that goes into entertainment management, that goes into the way in which that we manage and can look at how entertainment and media firms manage themselves. Now, as of this particular taping, I have just gotten back from the Television Academy Fellowship in Los Angeles. I was one of 25 faculty that were hosted from a pool of about 130 applications. So it was a very prestigious honor, needless to say. And so when I was out there, I was able to talk to some of the programming and scheduling people out there from Fox and CBS and NBC and CW. And it was a really interesting experience. They went over a few things, though, that I thought were interesting, and just kind of as an introduction to all of this. You know, one of the things that they had talked about was, looking at how to reach audiences. And one of the things that they had brought up was social media. In fact, a lot of these networks see social media more so as kind of a PR tool, as a way in which to notify consumers that a show is about to air, or when a new season is about to start, or if a new show, period, is about to be featured on a particular channel. They don't necessarily take into stock so much of what people say on Twitter or Facebook. Remember, when you post something on a Facebook or when you post something on a Twitter feed, if you will, it's kind of something that is in the moment, right? There's some sort of immediacy or exigency. This character was terrible, or I can't believe he said that or she did that. I can't believe these writers are doing this to this character. What are they thinking? These comments really are locked in for that kind of moment. And it's usually only the super hardcore consumers who are watching these programs that will typically tweet or post something on Facebook. So I thought that was an interesting takeaway. The second thing that this particular panel had said to us was that they are working on kind of multi-platform measurements. And audience measurement is a really tough thing to do in media management. It's really difficult to follow the eyeballs from online to the television set to a tablet and so on and so forth. It's also kind of difficult to know how much attention is being paid to the particular programs. This is why virtual reality is also so exciting. If you have a headset on and you're watching The Big Bang Theory or Modern Family or any other kind of show, you're watching the show. There's no like, oh yeah, I'm going to go do laundry while Sheldon and Leonard are arguing. You're not doing any of that. You couldn't. If you try to do laundry while you've got a virtual reality headset on, you're going to wind up washing one of your pets or doing something else that is going to be disastrous. And so virtual reality, from a media management perspective, is very exciting because you do have an opportunity to offer consumers this really immersive experience. You have their attention, they can kind of walk around and they can elect to engage certain characters or walk around the room and really follow along with what's been going on. So these elements are particularly exciting, and these factors are exceptionally exciting. The other thing that the panel of programming and scheduling executives said to us, the faculty and I, were that they're not as much interested in competitive scheduling anymore as they used to be. Lead-ins are great, and a lead-in is when you have one particular TV show help you lead into a new particular TV show. So if we are starting with Young Sheldon, for instance, well, The Big Bang Theory aired before Young Sheldon. And of course, Sheldon is an actor on The Big Bang Theory, and so CBS currently is doing a spin-off entitled Young Sheldon. It made sense to have the lead in to be able to do that. So these are different media management principles, kind of thinking about the resources that you have at a particular channel, Also, audience measurement. How do we know who's watching what? Currently, right now, it's a bit of an odd, though exciting, period, because Nielsen and Comscore and a lot of other media firms are really trying to reinvigorate their methods of measuring. The TV ratings, the TV shares that we rely on are typically created from Nielsen, which is an audience measurement company, going out and sampling about 30,000 families, give or take, between paper diaries and between taking surveys and people meters. And a people meter is when they kind of equip a household and they monitor who's watching what through the device. They kind of get a sample and an idea of who's watching what, and then they extrapolate it to the rest of the population. Yeah. This has been implemented since about the 50s, 60s. Needless to say, these measurements aren't always as accurate as we'd hope them to be. And so we're really in a period in which we have the opportunity to really, really sink our teeth into data and to really get a sense of who's watching what, how they're watching it, and even audience preferences for that matter. The panel of network executives, though, was very much interested in also getting back cord cutters. Cord cutters, not the people who cut the umbilical cords with a newborn. Cord cutters are people who get rid of entirely cable subscription, satellite subscription. They completely divest themselves of a subscription. It's kind of frightening if you're a media manager, some sort of media executive, and you say, oh, Christ, we lost 500,000 people. Nobody's subscribing anymore, and everybody's going to Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime. And so what is more worrisome than just losing people is, will we get them back? We know they're going. Can we pull them back? Maybe. And so one of the programming executives, actually he was from NBC, he had said to us, because I had asked the question, we had faculty here, what is one thing you'd love us to research, to look into? He was exceptionally curious about whether or not we could convince people to come back to cable and satellite, and whether getting married, buying a house, having children might spur people to come back to the subscription model. Very, very interesting stuff. If you've never been to Los Angeles, please do so. It was a wonderful time, and it is a place in which I could definitely see myself living, as I think many of you could as well. What struck me most about visiting Los Angeles with the Television Academy Foundation was the opportunity really to connect to a lot of different executives there. Every day we went to either Fox or Warner Brothers, CBS, ABC. It kind of ran the gamut. In fact, the panel on programming and scheduling was with the executives at Disney ABC, which was really cool to be at. Anyway, that's kind of a bit of a deviation, but nevertheless, it serves as a nice overview of some of the things I think we'll tackle today. So let's get started. Let's look at the first slide. Let's look at the second slide. Okay, so this is the first slide. This is the introduction. I kind of like doing this overview with some of my slides. It makes things a little bit more palatable for the audience, which is you. First, we're going to look at why brands matter. Entertainment branding, technology, and media management will follow. And then Blue Ocean strategy. Yes, as beautiful as that sunset is, it is related to business and competition and a whole host of other things that you don't want to think about when you are walking on the beach. I get it. Let's look at the next slide. Terrific. And of course, me, and I might be aging myself here, but I can remember holding a Nintendo controller. Yes, that is the 1985 NES controller, which helped reinvigorate the entire video game industry. But that is for another lecture. So, brands and brand management. Now, a brand is any kind of symbol or logo that distinguishes a particular product. And so a product might be a camera, and perhaps the camera's brand is Sony or JVC or Panasonic. And so the product is what is physical, but the brand is intangible. You can't really hug HBO. You can't really hold Starbucks, but you can kind of touch and feel their products, sort of. Might be hard to hug a TV show. But if you and I went to Starbucks, grabbed a cup of coffee, yeah, the product itself is the coffee. Brand elements include coloring, packaging, designs. All of these kind of exude and communicate certain features about the product. And so if we're looking here, we have two red buttons. We have black and gray and white. Black, gray, and white, very, very chic, very, very clean. It looked like an electronics device, and that's what the NES was going for. There wasn't a lot of playful blue, yellow, pink. None of those colors were really on the console. It was meant to look like a VCR. It was meant to look like it belonged in a living room, and it does belong in a living room. It looks like it belongs in a living room. However, there is red there. The red, of course, is to distinguish the buttons from the rest of the controller, that those are things that you should be paying attention to, and you should be able to easily find. If those buttons were gray, it might blend in a little bit too much with the controller. So moving along. Why do brands matter? Nintendo, now you're playing with power. So if we look at that particular commercial, the NES commercial, I want you to watch it and I want you to think about what's going on in that commercial. So, what'd you think of the commercial? Obviously, there was this kid who was being empowered by Nintendo. Now you're playing with power. The electricity, the lightning, the storm, all of those things were infused in the commercial. And it's very, very empowering for a child to think that they are being empowered. Remember, if you're 5 or 7 years old, mom and dad, kind of hover around you. They are the heads of the household. To be empowered, to have any kind of power as a 5 or 8-year-old is nothing short of amazing. Now, this matters. I know that this kind of communication is, it's kind of an advertisement, it's a commercial, it's meant to appeal to a particular demographic, a youthful one at that. That may be true, but what you also have to realize is that the brand is trying to solidify itself with certain personality traits. One being power, strong, energetic. All of those traits collectively help inform the Nintendo brand. Now we have a few things that are also listed on that particular PowerPoint. One is a risk reducer. What's a risk reducer? Are we really reducing risk when we go to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts? I could still burn hot coffee on myself. Well, when we're shopping around for particular brands, we look at the brand because we're familiar with it. Think about it. If we had brands, let's say each brand had a letter of the alphabet, and we were looking at, let's say, coffee. Coffee A brand, coffee B brand, coffee C brand, coffee D brand, all the way through to Z. We wouldn't really be able to distinguish between each one. We might remember the letter, coffee A is really good. Coffee D kept me up all night. But at the end of the day, it might be difficult to make associations with these brands. What's so wonderful about what Nintendo did in that particular clip is that it helped inspire people to purchase the console, hoping that they'll buy the console, they'll buy some games for the NES at that point, some 30 years ago, and then they'll move on. And of course, as some of you may know, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System was the next console that followed the NES. And so the idea is that with brands, it's a risk reducer because you've had experiences with the brand. You know that anything by Nintendo is made with high quality. You know that when you go to Starbucks, you're going to be getting uber expensive coffee that tastes burnt. Maybe. I'm a Starbucks drinker myself, so I'm just as guilty. But the idea is that you know that a product from a Dunkin' Donuts, a Starbucks, a TGIF Fridays, it doesn't matter. You have expectations because you've also experienced products that are produced from that particular brand before. So you start kind of keeping this mental log, and you might even say to yourself, what was the last time I played Nintendo? Had a cup of coffee from Dunkin' Donuts. Was it good? Or was it bad? If so, are you willing to give the brand another shot? Maybe. The other thing on that PowerPoint was search cost. What is a search cost? Are we really searching for particular brands and products? I'm in the aisle of a grocery store. Do we really need to be walking around looking and trying to see what we can find? To some extent. When we're going down an aisle for a video game, or when we're going down the aisle for a particular movie, if you know that a particular actor is in a movie, you might say to yourself, I'll watch anything with Denzel Washington. I'll watch anything with Will Smith. The actors themselves are kind of walking brands in a sense, in which, a product could be the movie, arguably, in this scenario, and the brand itself is almost a Will Smith. If you think of, actors helping to put out these movies, you might say to yourself, I really like Will Smith's brand, or I really like Jennifer Lawrence's brand. If you treat these actors as brands, then you say, I'll watch anything that has a Will Smith in it, or I'll watch anything that has a Jennifer Lawrence in it. At that point, then, you're being informed by those previous experiences with those actors and actresses. You say, you know what? I don't really care what's on the movie menu at the movie theater. Will Smith's in it. I'm down for it. And so with those attitudes, I can make a snap decision, probably 5 seconds. Will Smith's in it. Al Pacino's in it. Michelle Pfeiffer's in it. Yeah, I'm absolutely game. Meryl Streep's in it. I'm already in. I don't care if it's a comedy. I don't care if it's a drama. I'm sure you've had these conversations before with friends and family. So they serve as ways in which to reduce risk. You don't know how the movie's going to go, but you have a good sense that since you like the actor or actress, it'll probably be decent at the very least. So moving along on this to the next slide. Customer-based brand equity model. Now, don't run away. Don't freak out. I know this pyramid. It's a pyramid. That is not a period. What this pyramid looks like, we will break it down. The bottom, it says salience. When we first encounter a brand, we might say to ourselves, who are you? Why do I need you to satisfy my needs? When we have needs, get your minds out of the gutter. It's not just about sex. We have other kinds of needs. And so we might have needs to be entertained, or needs to feel sadness or happiness or anything like that. Salience is the first step in creating equity or value for a particular brand. And these are what brand managers are always thinking about. They know that consumers are going to ask, what is this new brand that is before me? Could be a new coffee house, let's say. Why do I need you in my life? The next step up is performance and imagery. Primary characteristics of the brand. It could also rely on product reliability. How reliable is this brand? User profiles and usage situations. What do I use this for? Many people might have been wondering this when they first received a PlayStation console or a PlayStation 2 video game console, because you could also put in DVDs in the console. So people had to expand the way in which they used video game consoles. Pretty interesting. The next step up is, okay, I've used a video game console to play movies on, the DVDs, or perhaps a streaming service. You might have Netflix on your PlayStation or Amazon Prime on your Xbox. The next step up is judgment and feelings. So what about you? Did we have quality here? Was there credibility, social approval, or security? What we're looking at judgments and feelings is you've had these experiences with this console. You have streamed the Avengers through your Xbox console, or you've bought the Avengers DVD and you've put it into your Xbox console. And then you've done it with other movies. How do you feel? What was the quality like? Are other people using the video game console? We're always worried about this. Believe it or not, we tend to use things that our friends and family also use. Network effect is what it kind of falls under. And so if we're looking at those elements and factors, then we begin to get to the fourth and final stage, all the way up. Resonance. Is there loyalty, attachment, some sort of community or engagement? And if you've been able to get your brand, if you are a brand manager for Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, Ford, Chrysler, Mercedes-Benz, Gucci, if you can go all the way up and you hit resonance, your brand is stellar. If you have reached that point with your consumers, you are doing a darn good job. Your consumers are likely going to be coming back. They'll probably spread your brand word of mouth, and you will be able to extend your brand further and reach greater and further consumer segments. So moving on to the next particular slide. So why do we even need branding in the entertainment industry? Why are we talking about this? Why am I mic'd up doing this? It's the entertainment industry. It's all make-believe and based on dreams. Well, perhaps. There's a few other things we have to be mindful of, though. First, there's intense competition. Now, with intense competition comes a lot of people trying to cut through the noise and to become something. For instance, last week when I was in Los Angeles for the Television Academy Foundation, we met panelists from Born This Way, which was the Runway, or is the Runway, A&E TV show. Now, when we were talking to the producers on this particular show, they were saying to us, yeah, we look for different markets. That's interesting. They look for different markets. When they were initially pitching the particular show surrounding a group of people who suffered with autism, they said to themselves, this isn't being done. There's no voice for this particular consumer profile. What they elected to do was to go to other families and do interviews and try to learn a little bit more about Down syndrome and how it impacts families and the kind of challenges that these adults regularly face. With a lot of consternation and with a lot of challenges that face the producers, they were able to pitch this particular show. Let's scrap that, Keith. I'm just going to go back a little bit.
Okay, that's cool.
With a lot of determination and with interviewing a lot of people, the producers were able to get the show on. I don't know another show that talks about Down syndrome, at least not in that way. They're the first one to the marketplace. And as one of the executive producers on the show, Jonathan Murray, who incidentally is the executive of Bunim Murray, who put out The Real World, Simple Life, and a whole host of other reality shows, you know, the first one in a particular market kind of remains, you know, and then other people kind of go into it. And, you know, if you've seen Real Housewives, Dancing with the Stars, The Voice, American Idol, you know, a lot of shows tend to be replicated by other channels, or at least they give it a shot for that matter. But if you're the first one in the marketplace, you can kind of hold your ground, let's say, and you're able to kind of build a foundation for your own brand and remain competitive. That's why American Idol was able to survive for 15 years. It was one of the first to the marketplace in the American marketplace, and it held its own. It was able to create standards that were super high, and it was able to hire high-quality talent. If we look back at that PowerPoint, there are a few things to cover before we run out of time. There's a lot of major decision-making that goes on at these networks. A lot of decision-making regarding channels and what to put on what. You know, recently, within the last week, NBC decided to put the ice on the Chiller Network. Yes, in fact, the Chiller Network is owned by NBC, or Comcast NBC, and so it is being canceled in another 6 months, I believe. And so there's always major decision-making about what channels to keep, what channels not to keep. And then we're thinking about shows. What shows do we even keep? There is something about customer relationship management that is uber important. You have to really know your customer. And Netflix does a fine job at this because with every subscription it has your gender, your location, the shows that you watch, your preferences. It has a lot of information on you. This is why CBS All Access subscription is being pushed by CBS. This is why Showtime has a subscription service. This is why a lot of channels are starting to do subscription services. They're not necessarily worried about the money. It's really about collecting data on people, and really good data on people. They can track what shows you're watching. Way better. And so there's also something related to this entitled brand equity. Are we creating value with this brand? Brand equity says, what's the difference between a generic restaurant subtracted by McDonald's, let's say? What's the difference there? The difference there really is the equity. What does McDonald's bring to the table by having McDonald's Honest Restaurant? How much further does the brand become more valuable? What happens to the restaurant when it's known as a McDonald's restaurant? We also have the idea of a brand relationship theory. Now, some of us might say, well, I've given up on that channel, or I'm divorced from The Bachelor, we're no longer married, or maybe you're married to a particular show. I'm married to The Office, I'm married to The Simpsons, I'm married to Modern Family, Big Bang Theory, I'm married to Blacklist. When we describe these relationships that we have with either TV channels, TV networks, or video streaming services, or films, or video games, or what have you, there's something that's very special there. We perceive these relationships to be similar to those that we have with people. We're in love with this brand, we subscribe to this brand, we do a lot for this brand. And so in having these relationships with people, it becomes a very, very dynamic experience, and one that brand managers hope to foster with other people. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in on Late Night Learning. We did it, you did it, I did it. Keep laughing, keep learning. We'll see you next time.